What's up, y'all? Jonathan from Hierarchy Productions in the house, here to show you about the best way to sidechain, at least the way that I sidechain, that I really like. And yeah, let's get into it. If you don't know what sidechain is, I just had a web page, but I closed it. Let's see. Sidechain is an effect that you have on one sound that is triggered by the level of another sound. The classic example is when you have a compressor on a bass track and you set it so it ducks the level of the bass whenever a drum hits. So, now you know what sidechain is. Basically, we're trying to, most electronic music, you need the kick and the snare to hit really well, and so everything else kind of ducking down in volume to make room for those things. So I have a little beat here. Let's play it real quick. Here's the drum beat. Here's the bass. There's no sidechain on right now. So the first thing is there's a lot of different places that I place the sidechain, and so it helps to have a template so that you don't have to do this every time, because there's a lot of different places you're going to want sidechain, and to set it up on every single track every single time can be really tedious. I do sell my Ableton template on my website, hierarchy.com, so there will be a link below. You should definitely check it out if you're a new Ableton producer, because having a template allows you to have all the mix basically done, all the effects chains in place, so that every time you make a beat, you don't have to put an EQ on everything and put a compressor on everything, and you have your sidechain all set up. So basically in my template, I have a drum bus, I have a bass bus, and I have an instrument bus. And so I just place all those relative instruments into my buses, and then I have a sidechain on the bus itself. So on the instrument bus, there's a sidechain. On the bass bus, there's a sidechain. And then in the drums, I have sidechain on certain individual sounds. So like I have like a loop. If I put a loop in, like a drum loop or something, I have a sidechain on there. I have it on percussion samples. And then within my drum rack, I have it on HighHats, and I think rides. Let's check the rides. Yep, I got it on rides. Now I have to route it properly to make it work. But the best way to have a sidechain is what everybody recommends, is the Ghost Sidechain. And so instead of sidechaining directly to your kick, you sidechain to a specific sample. In this case, I have this little block percussion, a dolphin block percussion that I made. And if you listen, and if we look at the sample, it's got a really strong transient. The transient is the beginning of the sample. The first hit of the sample is really pronounced. And the reason why this is better than using like the actual kick or snare sample is because kicks can have a really long length and snares can have a really long length. And you don't necessarily want you don't want the sidechain reacting to the entire length of that sample, because it gives you less control over the release and the attack of the compressor on the sidechain. So the shorter you can make the attack and the shorter you can make the release, the less ducking effect you're going to get. And I can show you a little bit what I mean and what that sounds like. Because, so the kick and the snare are basically too long a lot of times. So it's nice to have just, this, what's called a ghost sidechain. So I've kind of showed you the, the layout of where you want it. The only other thing I can say is that I have the sidechain on the entire instrument bus, but you might have some samples like a lead or something where you don't want it ducking as much. And for that, I would just make a separate instrument bus for instruments that you don't want as affected by the sidechain. And then you can put on another sidechain, but maybe not have the threshold as low, so it's not ducking as much. So I'm going to basically, once I have a beat, and, sometimes like when I'm in the mixing or arranging mode, once I have my whole beat laid out, I'll combine the entire drum MIDI. But what I like to do is I will drag my entire drum MIDI pattern over into the sidechain. And then I will get rid of sounds like the hi-hat and the crash, and I'll leave everything except, I'll leave the kick, I can leave the snare, and I'll leave even sometimes the toms to help the toms come through. But once you drag it onto your Ghost Sidechain that's routed everywhere else, let's see, Ghost Sidechain, yep. Once you do that, then, I'll play the beat without the sidechain, and then I'll turn it on, and you can hear how that sounds. This is without it. Now I'm going to play it. Super clean, right? The attack is pretty low. You can turn the release like super far down if you want more effect. You can turn the ratio to taste if you want it. If you're making like future bass and you really want to emphasize the kick and the snare even more. The only other secret, if you're an Ableton user, is instead of using the updated compressor, I use the Ableton 8 compressor, the one that has F1, FF1, and FF2 here. For some reason, we just think it sounds better. So my homie Dropical is the one who really helped me kind of figure out all these buses and the hi-hats. So big up to Dropical for sharing the info. Ever since I started incorporating this method, my beats have sounded so much cleaner, and it definitely helps with the Live 8 sidechain. I also have like Kickstart from Shaperbox, and I have a couple other, options for sidechain like Fab Filter and stuff, but I really like the Ableton sidechain. It works totally fine. Sounds great. So I think that's everything, and hope you enjoyed watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Peace and love. I'm out.